one thing about being a police officer, especially in small town America, as you guys know, the community has to know who the police are. Like, there is that connection that is immensely important. I don't know what the rules are, why that is. Again, we're in red Florida, so things are obviously different down here than blue New York and blue Massachusetts. But if you are being a law enforcement officer that isn't necessarily representing the community and people don't know who you are, and you're going from, let's say, Sunrise, Florida in central Broward down to Miami, which is an hour away, it's like, that's a problem. And that community connection is a huge part, I think, of what the issue with law enforcement is. And again, there is no silver bullet to solving the law enforcement issues that we have in the United States. But the one thing that I've been very adamant about and would love to hear your thoughts on is ending qualified immunity. I mean, to me, what happened in Uvalde is a great example of, if qualified immunity does not exist, then the police department are the ones who are going to be financially responsible, because Lord knows this is going to be the civil lawsuit to end all civil lawsuits that's going to come of what just happened.
And the taxpayers will pick up the tab.
Because we have qualified immunity, the taxpayers are the ones who have to pay for it. So to me, if there is going to be that cultural change within policing in the United States, because I've always maintained, if you want to change the culture of policing in the US, the police have to police the police. People from the outside can't do it. It is never going to happen. It always has to be. It is a fraternity, a very strong one, and that is the way it'll happen. And the way I see it is the overwhelming majority, once again, of good, honest police officers who know who the dirty cops are and the bad cops are will basically tell them, I'm not losing my pension for your bullshit. Like, that's not going to happen. So if the qualified immunity issue was there, to me, that's what I think would really change a lot of what goes on. So where the cops ultimately work and who is responsible if things go bad, I think, are ways that could really mitigate a lot of these problems. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it starts with recruiting the police as well. And what I mean by that is, asking the right questions. Why do you want to become a police officer? Because a lot of guys will say, words to the effect that, well, I want to help people. And the next question is, well, when have you helped people? Show me some evidence that you've actually helped people before. And then you find out that they've never done anything to help anyone, that they really just want to be a cop because they like guns, or they like the power of it, or they have some military experience, and they just, this is the next thing that they want to do. So, just being upfront at the beginning, recruiting the right people who are in it really to provide service rather than being on some kind of a power mission. I think that kind of recruitment is very important. I think it's essential.
Yeah. Sarah, so you serve on a commission, so you're saying you have a civilian commission. That's what it is that sort of oversees sort of the police, not oversees, but we don't have that. We don't have anything like that here at all.
It's a small one. So we have a little bit of context because the geography helps to understand. It's a suburb. It is the largest in the county police force outside of the city of Syracuse. So it's about a 40-member police force, but then our board is about anywhere from 10 to 12 members. I serve currently at the town board level. So we have a few town elected officials, but prior to being elected, I served as a civilian capacity, just a genuinely interested community member. And that's those are the voices that are the most important, to be frank. Those are the discussions where we have a direct ear into the community. We know where the issues are. If there's a certain, beat, if you will, that is being, that may be a little more aggravated than others, we get the community members come in and tell us about it. I think to Bill's point, when he talks about recruiting and finding out, the other side of that coin, though, is corporate culture. So we found that not necessarily my policing agency, but if you were to remove all of the officers, but you kept the same chief in, and the chief was the one with the right. With the negative corporate culture, it wouldn't matter who you brought in and what their intentions are for being a police officer, because it comes from the top down. we really need to start eradicating folks that have older mentalities of the power abuse and, the gun loving efforts, and start looking for folks that are invested in a community policing effort. Really getting in the community, living in the community that you're serving as you were saying earlier, is so key, because then there's that trust building, and then being there in non-violent, non-responding capacities, just hanging out. We've started in the smaller village where one of the beats, literally, they just hang out at the park and at the basketball nets. They're shooting hoops. They're trying to understand who the kids are and really trying to just become a familiar face in the community so that we can get to issues prior to them becoming a response mechanism, and really try to respond and give. Again, it's going back to building that community trust, because it's been broken both here and nationally. And I think that the aspect of recruiting is very important, but also that corporate culture that we're supporting. Is it a good one? Is it a positive one? Or is it one that maybe it was from, generations ago, and we need to look to revamp that with some new leadership?
Yeah.
Yes. Sarah makes a great point. The saying, the fish rots from the head, is often so true. I mean, the other part of it too is the metrics that we use to promote police officers. So, how are police officers rewarded? Well, it tends to be things like how many arrests you've made, how many tickets you've written, that kind of thing. Why aren't you rewarding officers for diffusing tensions, for building bridges within the community? The metrics are a little more subtle in that case, but we're often promoting the wrong kind of officer, the hyper-aggressive one, the one who makes a lot of arrests or writes tickets all the time, and actually is estranging the police from the community by hassling people so much.
Yeah, I also think it goes hand in hand with the militarization, because you're recruiting a certain kind of person who wants to come and show up in riot gear and is interested in that. Like you're getting almost a more commando mentality. It's like feeding itself, because when all you have is a hammer, everything you see is a nail, and they have all this fun stuff. So I just think you're getting a sort of mentality, like a, John Wayne mentality.
Part of it is that just the image of the police in our society. All the TV shows, it shows the SWAT teams, all kinds of special weaponry. All of this is displayed as sexy. Violence is a positive thing. I go back to the old Dragnet shows, with Joe Friday, who only pulled his .38 snubby a couple of times. And when he did use his gun, it provoked a great sense of unease in him. That's the old model of the cop. A more of an officer friendly, more of a beat cop. Not the kind of robo cops that we see out there. Speaking of corporate influence, a great movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And what about the idea of rewarding cops? You were saying they get rewarded for basically over patrolling. Essentially, the more, what if you actually rewarded officers for solving cases? Because there's so many unsolved cases. There are tons, especially rape cases that don't even get investigated. Kids don't get tested. Nobody follows through on them. Nobody cares. So I always thought, what if you had officers actually solving crimes that existed instead of patrolling streets and looking for problems? That was just my crazy thought.
Not too crazy, but reasonable.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.